Welcome to the Real Estate Mastery Podcast, where seasoned investors, savvy entrepreneurs, and business moguls converge to share invaluable insights, strategies, and stories in the world of investing. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just dipping your toes into the market, join us on this journey where knowledge meets entertainment and education fuels your entrepreneurial spirit. Each episode features engaging discussions, informative interviews, and real-life case studies that offer a unique blend of education and entertainment with our host, Jason Chrisman.
Alrighty, everybody, welcome back. This is your host, Jason Chrisman. Today I'm here with an extremely special guest. I know I say that all the time, but today is somebody that I follow personally myself, and I definitely look up to him. His name is Kris Krohn. Kris Krohn has, in my opinion, kind of conquered the world of business, and I love his mindset. But I'm going to let him introduce himself, and we'll get into this. Kris?
Happy to be here, man. Appreciate you, Jason.
Awesome. Kris, so you're definitely, a business mogul. You have your hands dipped into a lot of different businesses, real estate. Again, I love your motto. So train yourself, your mind, and your brain. Explain that to us, to the audience.
Yeah, so I think that we're living in just a world of sleepwalkers. Like the apocalypse is already here, and it shows up in the form of human beings that are robots. It's almost like everything's been predetermined, and they're not really free agents. They're not really living life to their fullest, and they're certainly not seizing the day or the opportunity that's right in front of them. It takes almost an awakening to be able to do that. And I feel fortunate. I had a few God moments in my life as a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old, as an 18-year-old. I almost drowned in the ocean trying to save my sister's life. And I emerged from those experiences feeling so awake and so ready to just live life to the fullest, because I felt like I was on borrowed time. And I just, for a long time, I just had this anxiety every morning, like, this is your only day and you don't get more. And so you got to bring it. And I think for that reason, I've stayed in the fight when so many other people give up. But most people, when they have an aspiration for something, they'll take 3, 4, or 5 like running head starts at it, and then if they can't achieve it, they give up. But most worthwhile things in life, you got to fail at 50 times or 1,000 times, which means you have to level up your mindset to whatever it takes energy, just like that Imagine Dragons song, whatever it takes. And so I'm a whatever it takes kind of guy, which means the deeper and the harder the challenge and the lower the chance of success, the more excited I get, because of whatever it takes energy eventually is going to pull through and get the final yes and finally arrive.
I love that. And as awesome as that story is, it's horrible because you almost had something turn into such a big tragedy. But unfortunately, a lot of people do need life openers. They do need to see the better side of the picture. And hopefully it doesn't have to get to that point for everybody. But Kris, you're not going to be able to see it, but our audience is here today. They want to know what your daily routine is like. What's a daily routine of a millionaire?
So my routine is really, it's about cultivating energy. And so part of that means that I wake up at 4 a.m. just like I did this morning. And me and my wife, we go to our own private gym. I'm listening to a book for the first 20 minutes of the day. Right now, I'm actually reading a book called Free Agent, and it is on this whole idea of what does it mean to guide and direct and manifest your own destiny. I'm usually reading a personal development book, a book that, anything that I'm studying that I want to master, I'm going to go really deep on and read a dozen books from different authors in that new space that I'm trying to master something. Then I hit the treadmill while I'm doing my cardio. My wife and I are doing our meditation. It's an active meditation. It's a time to connect to ourselves and God, and also spend some time in visualization of what we're creating. Then we hit the weights. We lift. And then after that, we go home and we spend time, together, and then we spend time with our kids. And by 9 a.m., 5 hours has passed, but I'm connected to me. I've nurtured my mind. I've opened up my heart. I'm connected to my soul. I've worked out my body. I've worked out spent time with my loved ones. And that 5-hour routine is like the most important part of my life. In fact, I tell most people that what you do every day is what will ultimately form your destiny of where you're going to wind up 20 years from now. So if it's that important, make sure it's the first thing that you do. For me, that's 4 a.m. because I just love that routine so much, and I want to have more of it instead of less of it.
That's awesome. That really is absolutely awesome. And it's true. And I noticed within 4 minutes, you mentioned God twice. Is God a big part of your life?
Yeah, God's everything. This whole idea, like without God, I'm only relying on what I know, and what I know can only get me more of what I've gotten. So it's this very two-dimensional linear living. But many, many years ago, I learned that God can provide hindsight for experiences we haven't achieved yet. And so often for me, God isn't found in just like a church thing or on my knees praying thing. It's really found in active meditation that is maintained throughout the day. In fact, every time I find myself at a crossroads where I don't know what to do, I'll pause, I'll close my eyes, I'll take a deep breath, I'll connect to my higher self, and I'll ask left or right, which direction? And I feel there's always an internal lean to the left or the right, and then I know what direction to go. I call that God. And I feel like God is with me every day.
I love that. Those are the mystery signs. I see those all the time. One of my favorite things is the red car theory, and I'm sure you've heard of it before. If somebody could be driving all day, a truck driver, you can ask them, how many red cars have you seen today? Well, they're going to say, well, I'm sure I passed some, but damn, I really don't remember. I don't think I've seen any. If you're not looking for it, you're not going to find it. And I'm a 100% believer in that, as well as God has made my life amazing. He's made me a 7-figure investor as well. And, everybody I talk to who's truly influential or truly good at what they do, God is right at the top of that source. And I love that, Kris. The last 4 or 5 people we had on, the first 5 minutes, God all the way. And I love that.
Well, I think there's also a priority to life. And sometimes when people don't hit the levels of success they want, or if their life is in shambles or going through difficulty it's a cycle that they're just not breaking, it's because there's a lack of understanding priorities. And I'll describe mine. It's not going to sit well with everyone, but before I prioritize God, I prioritize myself. I'm the one sitting on the plane, and I need oxygen when that mask comes down before I can help anybody else. And so for me, the first thing I do in the morning is I connect to me. And I believe that we all have a higher self and a lower self. Our higher self is connected to God and has access to all of this amazing information. Our lower self is connected to all of our limitations, our limiting beliefs. And so I connect to myself so that, number 2, I can move from the priority of connecting me to connecting to God. Because now I'm in a space where me and God can connect in a beautiful way. My next priority is my wife, and then it moves out to my children, and then it moves out to my community, and from then on there out. And I bring that up because I think there's a lot of people in business that are like, wow, I crushed it in business. I got to 7 figures, and then I got divorced because I put the money in the business before I put my wife or my family. I'm like, okay, you messed up your priorities. You put too many minutes and too much energy into the money game and not enough into the marriage game. So priorities, I think, for ultimate success are everything. It's like a little bit like going to the gym, and it's like, Kris, why do you spend like 90 minutes or 2 hours a day on your body? I'm doing my 4th bodybuilder competition this fall. I've bulked all the way up right now. I'm 257 pounds. I'll cut all the way down to 235. And it's like, Kris, why do you put so much energy into that? And it's like, it's because I'm aware that 50 years from now, the way I'm living my life today, the food that I'm eating today, the nutrients and the supplements I'm putting in my life today will very much determine what I look like and where I'm at in my energy levels, my activity levels, and my health 50 years from now. So I'm prioritizing that now because, be a trillionaire and you trade every penny of it for more time on your deathbed. Well, the time to invest in your health is not when you need it. So it's now.
Smart. I mean, I agree with that 100%. It's true. Can't work backwards. You have to have a system, and you have to have a protocol for that system, and you need to put what's important first. My family is number 1. If I lose everything, the one thing I know who's going to be there is my family. It's not going to be my partner. It's not going to be my friends. It's not going to be the people I make money with. It's going to be my family. And those are the people who you need to take care of.
Yeah. And strangely, family is everything. Like when you ask, like I look at my journey of wealth, and by the time I started buying thousands of homes and a couple $1 billion worth of real estate, and then started owning hundreds of businesses, like I remember chasing that more was more, until one day I woke up and realized that more money and more wealth actually doesn't do anything. As much as I believe in being a future planner and retirement and having enough money and building and winning in this game, if I have all the money that I need for today, which pretty much means a roof, it means 3 square meals, and I have my family, like I'm already the wealthiest human being on the planet. And I think it's hard for some people to understand. I went through this experience many, many years ago where I was at risk for losing my 10,000 square foot custom built home, losing my business, losing everything. And on the last day before I went default on everything, I had like less than $2,000 in my bank account from 6 figures. And I remember on that day, I was running a custom marathon. It was like 3 a.m. and I was running with like 5 buddies of mine. And at the last mile, I was so tired. And my buddy, Andy Goddard, successful businessman, like, bro, like you're getting ahead of me. Will you hang back with me? Because if you get ahead, I'm going to walk. And I do not want to walk this last mile. I want to finish. I want to finish strong. So he ran side by side with me. And he said, well, what are you learning in this financial experience? And right then God moved through me and said 3 things. Number 1, your family will never be on the streets. You'll always have a roof. You're that capable. Number two, they'll always have food every day, even if you lost everything. But number three shocked me, is that leave a legacy of passion for your children, not a legacy of money, a legacy of passion. So we are all sometimes getting caught up in the game of wealth accumulation. And we sometimes do it at the expense of recognizing, oh my gosh, everything that actually matters right now, I already possess. And if I can operate from that mindset, my joy quotient goes up, everything gets better in my life. And then actually making money is easier, it takes less time, and I come into more balance.
For most of you out there who want to hear the good, juicy stuff, in my opinion, when I hear this, when I hear the talk of, the recognition of how people, turn their life, how long ago did you say that was when you were ready to lose your 10,000 square foot house?
Probably 15 years ago.
15 years ago, you built an empire. Something that should take anybody else really generations and generations to do. And God's a big part of that. I love that. But to get over to your personal side a little bit, are you building a garage right now?
Yeah, I am.
It blows me away. I mean, with 28,000 square feet?
Yeah, so it's an addition on the existing home. We're in this beautiful gated community. We have a few acres. We have this 40-acre preserve in front of us, high up in the mountains in southern Utah. It's very, very beautiful. And right now, my wife and I have been studying the last decade, all the different modalities of things we like doing. And this weekend, I have a brand new book coming out. It's called Time Machine. And the book is predicated on this idea of how do you master the game of time? Because if you have that, you can have all the health, all the money, all the love, everything you could ever want. But you have to master time. So my wife and I, are basically taking everything that we go into the valley for, 5 places for, and we're bringing it into our home. So, the fact that I love to racquetball, or a 3,200 square foot gym, or the place that I like to spend time with my friends, or have this, have this monstrous pool, or, these game rooms. And we have, a full spa, like a full spa and longevity center. All of these things are being brought into our home. And that's so that we can save time. So basically, I'm either on my jet going somewhere in the world to experience something in a different location to save time, or I'm hermiting it up in my home. And between those two, I can pretty much live life on my terms the way that I want and maximize time.
That's great. Saving so much time just traveling from place to place alone, that there and back drive, you'll have everything. And now you can do it with your family, which is amazing. Like you were saying in the beginning. And anybody, on your deathbed, you'll give anything for 10 minutes. You're saving hours a day by not traveling. That's awesome. I love that. So Kris, I have to jump into business. How many properties do you own, or doors?
So that's a number I do like to keep private, but I'll tell you, I acquire a door every day.
And, a door every day for how many days? Let's get the math going here, Kris.
Well, there's 365 days in a year, right?
Yep. So, 15 years.
We've been doing this for a while. I know you're going to want the numbers, but I'm in a different phase of my life, and I love the accumulation game, and I love building, and most of it's really at this point automated. So I feel very blessed. I've got 1 million followers on YouTube and millions across all my social, and I get basically people from all over the world that will watch my social, and then every day people reach out and they say, Kris, I hear that I can partner with you. I got money in a 401k doing nothing, or an IRA, or equity in my home, and they partner with me, and then I have a team that will go into the top 5 markets of the US and basically focus on high-grade investment rentals that produce on average a 34% annual ROI. That means that your money doubles every other year. And it's like, that is like 100 times more money than your retirement will ever be. And so one of my unique things that I do in life is I love to give people access to the game of real estate. So I acquire a lot because I'm buying my own real estate, but I'm also just helping a ton of people in partnership do the same thing.
I love that. So explain that to us a little bit. People put in their money, you invest that money along with your money, or are they in something separate and they get that annual return of 34%?
Yeah. So early in my investing career, I wrote my first book all based on the premise of which strategy in real estate is best. You see, my first mentors that had made millions of dollars in real estate, they couldn't answer the question which is best, because they were doing a flip and then a wholesale deal and then an apartment complex and a buy and hold, and I was in a development deal, and I was just saying, guys, which is best? And they said, well, we can't give you that answer. I said, that's unfair. I have to have the answer. What is it? And they said, well, Kris, the reason why it's unfair is because one deal might be more profitable but more risky. Like, it depends on what you value. I said, I'll tell you what I value. I want to know, of all the 30 major strategies in real estate, which one takes the least time from me? Which one will take on the least risk? Which one will be the most profitable? Which one will be easiest? Which one will work in an up and down market? And which one provides a benefit?
I can answer
So
that question for you, Chris.
what's that?
I can answer that question for you without you telling the audience, but you may have a different
Okay, go ahead.
perspective on that. So, are you a Section 8 landlord at all?
I actually don't do Section 8.
Okay. Okay. So, what do you do? Just
Well,
luxury?
so no. So actually, I don't do all entry-level single-family new homes built below the median in the top markets.
Okay.
And that niche started off with me saying I can always do a deal and make 25% a year on my money. If I make 25% a year on my money, I'll have 27 more times than a 401k. So I was like, that's why I started it. And then I started getting better and earning higher ROIs. And eventually people would say, okay, Kris, like, well, why aren't you getting now into apartments? Or why aren't you like upgrading? And why aren't you getting into bigger this? And I said, I'll tell you, there's only one reason. Their ROI can't compare. Why graduate to a lower ROI? And so again, ROI isn't everything because it's got to be balanced, obviously, Jason, against all of the other strategies, right? All of the other components that a person values. But for me, maintaining a 34% ROI as an average on a totally passive investment with absolute minimum risk, I don't think in the game of passive real estate it gets better than that. I haven't found anything scalable that can compete with it. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, 34% is kind of unheard of. That's extremely high and definitely impressive. I'm averaging on my rentals anywhere on average 15 to 18% return on investment, but I invest a little bit.
Killer, by the way.
It's killer, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it crushes the market. So the reason I'm in Section 8, and I just transitioned over the last year or so into Section 8, is because one, I could buy 5 properties for every 1 property.
Yeah.
You know, so my cash flow, I play the 1-to-1 ratio. My taxes, mortgage, and insurance is below my cash flow for that 1 property. So if I have 1,000 properties, 500 could be vacant, and I'm still making money.
Yeah.
Plus the government's paying me.
And I love that too.
We
could definitely someday dive into like the depth of this because I've done every other real estate strategy. By the way, a couple $1 billion in real estate. I've had my hand in so many different strategies. This one is really, it's so turnkey. I literally spend less than 1 hour a month managing and building my portfolio. So like some people are like, and I'm about systems. That's really more of who I am than anything else, because now that's gone into private equity, it's gone into business. And those are just different money games that are leveraging similar skill sets.
Well, that's why you're so impressive, Kris, because it's not about working what you're doing. It's about running the business. And I'm very familiar with that too. I own 4 companies. I run the companies. I make sure I employ people who are able to do the day-to-day tasks so I can run my business. I can run my company. If I'm spending more than 5 hours a month on my business, something's wrong. Well, something is majorly wrong.
Yeah. And you're an owner, not an operator.
Correct.
And I was explaining this to my kids yesterday. My kids, I've got 4 kids aged from 12 to 18 years old. And every Tuesday, they're all privately educated. I bring teachers into my home. And every Tuesday morning, a dad does basically financial training. And I said, okay, kids, today the words of the day are hierarchy and delegation. And like, well, what is that? And I was basically just explaining what happens when I have a CEO. And I was explaining that I had a board meeting that day. I said, kids, in this board meeting that happens once a month in 3 hours, I'll manage all of my companies. So it's all done. And so they said, well, how do you do that? And I said, well, hierarchically, I'm at the top. Then I have my CEOs. My CEOs then have executive managers, and underneath the managers are the employees. And so I delegate things, and then everyone does the work, and everyone builds the businesses. And I grew myself to a point where it doesn't require my time. And then I told them about the poop business. Go door to door, pick up your neighbor's dog poop, go out twice a week, charge them $30 a month. I said, go win 10 clients, and you're earning $75 an hour. And then you can pay $20 an hour to your siblings to actually do the work. And then you can hire someone to actually increase sales. So you're adding jobs as well as doing, collections and quality control. And then you're out of the business. And I basically said, here's how you earn $35 an hour of the 75 to have someone basically scale and do this whole thing. And we mapped it out. And my kids are all like making flyers like, oh my gosh, we're going to do this now. And all I'm doing is inspiring entrepreneurship, but at the same time, teaching them things that adults don't know, which is, you start off usually as an employee. Someday you're bold enough and you're done with the corporate ladder. So you start your own company, then you start hiring people and you start scaling. But your real moment of freedom comes when you become the owner instead of the operator. And when that happens, you get your time back. And then you're able to, do more things. So when people look at me and like, Kris, I don't know how you run all of these things and have all these things and yet work so part-time and then world travel, like one person can't do all that. I says, well, you can if you believe in this one statement. If you want something done right, never do it yourself. And that's my motto.
That's gold. I love it. One person can't create a massive business themselves. Look at the bigger people. Look at Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. You think they're the cream of the crop and the smartest people in the world? No, they're not. They surround
They
themselves
surround
with the
themselves
smartest
with
people.
them, right? Yeah.
Exactly, 100%. And you have 4 kids. I have 3 children. Also, my daughter, one of my second oldest daughter, I have a 4-month-old, and my second oldest daughter is 3.5. She'll literally sit here with me and pick out properties and say, "Daddy, that property's too big," because I don't buy properties where the lot is too big. It's more of a maintenance cost for me. So she'll sit here, and at 3.5 years old, she's learning the game of real estate, which I love. And they're never too young. Never too young. I'm sure you started with your kids when they were, still in diapers, Kris.
I did. I became financially free by the time my daughter was 1 year old.
Okay. Congrats, man. That's amazing. So the how many properties we're not going to get from you today, but that's okay. Maybe off air, you can maybe throw me a little bit of a hint there. But what types of businesses do you own? What do you have your hand in? What are you dipped in business?
5 years ago, I took a huge risk for me. And I wanted to get into technology. I got sick and tired of being the dirt guy. I got sick and tired of how, like, real estate, when you master it, it's a really dumb business. Every part of it can be automated. There's nothing special. It's ones and zeros. It's completely binary. So I modeled it all out, and I got bored because my wealth was skyrocketing through real estate. But in the game of business, I knew some games and I didn't know others. And what I wanted to do was enter a game of business with high multiples. I wanted to figure out how to get into technology plays where instead of having a 5X or a 10X, I could have a 20, 30, or 40X multiple. One of my companies right now that's leading the charts, it has a 47.7X multiple. And so I basically went to the other extreme and filled in all the gaps in the middle. And along the way, I said, okay, well, I want to become 10 years from now the entrepreneur's economist. I want to be that guy that owns multiple companies in every single industry so that when people seek my advice, I can give them a holistic understanding of the economy from an entrepreneur's perspective. And that's the journey I'm on right now, which is a journey of owning a piece of 10,000 companies over the next decade. And we're on our way.
You're going to hit it too, Kris. I know you are. I have no doubt in my mind that you're going to hit that.
I'm okay if we don't, but I'm going for it.
That's impressive. So, of course, I went over your stuff that you have today. So you have, basically 5 things. Life insurance is where you started, put the money in, take it out, but still gain the interest. Real estate, a business that you don't touch, then a business that you do touch and own, and then using other people's money. Using other people's money, you've explained to us a little bit earlier. When you're buying these properties, are you using other people's money for the down payment as well as purchasing the properties?
Yeah, every single time. So there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions. I bought a company 5 months ago without putting a penny down. It was a $10 million company. It's a company I believe I can grow to $50+ million, over the next 5 to 7 years. And the company had assets that I wanted to actually for one of my other companies, a marketing team in particular. And so there are ways to legitimately buy things without money, but in most cases, it does take money to make money. They just never said whose it is, right? I mean, you think about banks. When was the last time you walked into a rundown bank? Like literally the teller was smoking a stogie and the carpets were roughed up. It doesn't happen because they use fractional lending. They basically, for every million they have, they can extract $100 million, from the federal government and use it and lend it and on all this quote. And so they're making loads of money, but when you deposit money with them, they're paying you nothing. I mean, there's a reason why they give you a dum-dum when you leave the bank. Because it's kind of stupid for people that actually just put money in the bank. And so I like to play the bank's game, just do it differently. And what that is I partner up with people that have the money and say, hey, we're going to go in on something together, but we're going to be 50-50 partners. And that means that when I win, we're going to win together. And then real estate, we're going to compound it. Because here's what people don't get. They don't understand. When Albert Einstein said that compound interest was the greatest financial invention of our day, he wasn't referring to single digit ROIs on like 401ks and IRAs in the stock market. For compound interest to become meaningful, you have to break 10% and become double digit. So, what I love to do is I love to show people, hey, that 401k money, that IRA money, the equity in your home, get out of the mindset of being a saver, because let me tell you how to financially get screwed. You're either reckless with your money and you're living every single day making cool memories, or you're saving everything for a day called tomorrow that never comes. And the penny pinchers are the ones that get screwed the most because they build this mindset of no, can't, don't. And so they're always saving their pennies. But if you actually forecast what they'll have by retirement, they'll fall massively short. So they become someone that they're not going to like. And then when they finally get there, don't have what they need. So they're screwed. So if you're an accumulator or if you're reckless, you're in a bad way. But if you're an investor, as you know, everything changes. For it to change, though, you have to figure out how to get to a double-digit ROI and compound that. So when I say I never touch a deal unless I'm running 25% a year on it, that means by the fourth year, I'm now earning 100%,
100%.
right? And people don't understand that. It's like when I buy real estate, the reason why I'll never get out of the game is because everything I bought years ago, 20 more years from now, when it's worth all of this money, imagine having 1,000 homes all paid off. Well, those homes are now paying cash flow. I would never pay them off, by the way. I don't believe in paying anything off. I want the debt, I want the depreciation, and then the cash flow just gets bigger and bigger and bigger with time. But it's all tax-free. So I make all this money. I don't have to pay taxes on it. It's always appreciating. It's going up in value. Those are the games people need to get into. And the problem is that, it takes some time, right? It takes 5 or 10 years to start compounding something meaningful. Unless you want some cheat codes, and then I love to help people go faster too. But that's the different mindset that people need. And so in the beginning, you do use your money until you got no more, and then you use other people's money, and then you get the infinite ROI.
Oh yeah. So being cash poor is definitely a good thing in our business. I may have, millions of dollars in real estate, but I might not have $1 million in my bank account. But that's okay. Investing your money, like you said, with the compound interest, 4 years to pay it off, 24% compounds to 50%. And then forget it. The game's over in, 4 years, you're making 100%, 20 years, forget it. You're out the door at 2,000% before you know it. So one of my favorite things about real estate, and I'm the same way, I don't ever pay off my properties. Once I hit that 50% mark, I'm going to strip out as much equity as I can, because that one property is going to get me 2, 3, sometimes even 4 more properties.
You got it.
I buy properties at 50 to 70 grand. My 20% down is $10,000 to $14,000. I'm immediately making $550, $575 a month in positive cash flow. I have a 27.5 year depreciation at 100% on every investment property I have. I would be stupid to sell those properties.
Well, and at some point, it's like you're earning such a huge ROI on them. Why would you sell them and pay the taxes when all you're doing is increasing tax-free cash flow?
Yep. And even if I want to do something as goes a flip, or I want to sell a property, I'm going to 1031 it. I'm going to push those taxes off forever, until absolutely forever. So I did see a video, Kris. You're getting your kids into the vending business. Have they started, and how is that working if they started?
So I give my kids lots of different businesses. Like my son right now just started this year a beehive business, right? So whether it's a vending business, a dog poop business like I just talked about, or whether it's bee business, my son buys these beehives for $600. And then twice a year, you can harvest about $600 worth of honey. So I'm teaching him, just like multiplying a herd, he's multiplying his bees. And so we started with 1 hive, then he bought 2, now he has 4. Now I'm teaching him, son, give me a business plan. Let me give you money for 10 hives so that you don't have to wait to sell honey to buy more hives. Let me show you how to actually now scale the business. And his goal, by the time he's 18, he'll probably own a few hundred hives. He'll certainly make more than the average college graduate comes out of school with, and he'll probably only be working an average of 3 to 5 hours a week. So I'm trying to help all of my children just understand these principles. Vending machine is very, very similar. It's, it costs $2,000 to buy one of these machines. It costs a few $100s to stack it full, and then you got to go visit it, basically keep it full, and then after a while, you just recuperate your money. It keeps on going.
That's amazing. Do you own any laundromats, Kris?
I actually don't.
I'm surprised. Most people do have laundromats. I'm noticing as the more people I talk to, they're invested in some way in major, franchise laundromats. Yeah. And I wanted to pick your brain on that, but I've never seen a video with you owning,
Yeah. So there's a couple of different kind of business plays, right? It's like my buddy brought me these P&Ls and he wanted to play a game. He just showed me the P&Ls. He showed me the last 5 years and he says, Kris, would you buy this company? And I said, I don't want the laundromat. And he's like, how did you know it was a laundromat? It's like, oh my gosh, they're so predictable. It's so easy to see them. A laundromat is a really good, I would call it, these businesses that you can get started and buy for under $100,000. That's a really good example. So it is a good starting point. I did so well in real estate that where I'm at financially, instead of acquiring a whole bunch of companies for the 50 to 100K range, I have different set of standards. And most of the companies that I'm entertaining, they have to have billion-dollar market caps. They have to do something disruptive, if not insanely innovative. They have to already have some level of proven track record, because there's an entry point. I don't like to be that angel investor. I like to get in before private equity. And that's where that's my niche that I like to be in. So these companies have to have really huge upside. A laundromat is very linear. It's just like a car wash. It's like, well, you buy it and it produces an ROI. I'm like, that's cool. It's good. I'm not saying it's bad, but for the same amount of effort, I can do a deal with 100 times more potential. Same effort.
Yeah. Well,
Same
that was an audience question. So to keep our audience happy, we do have to throw out some of their questions there.
And by the way, if you have limited funds, I think the laundromat is a brilliant idea to get your feet wet with some predictable entrepreneurship. But at some point, you're like, I'm ready to scale. Let's do 10 laundromats. It's like, no, because you're going to realize there's an amount of effort that takes. And it's like, if I'm going to put that effort in before I can be the owner of it and walk away, it's kind of like this. When you make $100,000, this is important. When you make $100,000 from your first business, guess what happens when you start your second business? You're not thinking, I hope my next business also makes 100 grand. You're certainly not thinking, I hope it makes 50 grand. You're thinking 10x. Most entrepreneurs, they fathom 10x. If I'm going to put the same effort into a new thing, I want to go for $1 million. I got 100K here. I want $1 million there. Well, guess what happens when you have a business that makes you $1 million? Guess what your next goal is? It's not to do 2 million. It's to do 10 million. That's the most common thing I found with entrepreneurs. So you're going to outgrow the laundromat model really fast.
For somebody starting out, Kris, if they had, say, 50,000 cash, what would be the best starting point? Where should they put that money?
You have to ask yourself that if you're one of two people, are you a do-it-yourselfer or are you a do-it-for-me? Because if you were a do-it-yourselfer, then I would take that 50K. That's a 20% down payment on at least 40% below the national median. You're targeting $50,000 to $60,000 projects. I'm assuming this person's targeting $200,000 project. They can buy a home that they don't have to live in. It's non-owner occupied, and you can get started. But you do that if you love the game of real estate, you're committed to learning that game. 90% of people, Jason, are not. 90% of people, if they had a choice of giving me a fish or teaching you how to fish, they want to be given a fish. So there's a 90% chance that person might say, oh, okay, if I'm not going to put my heart and soul into learning that business, then I would be better off partnering with someone that has. And that's where someone like me becomes an option, where they're like, well, then I should find the guy with the biggest track record. And there's no one out there today that has scaled more single family than I have. And so people can partner with me, join forces, and then basically taking advantage of the fact that I have no learning curve versus a do-it-yourselfer that is starting with a brand new learning curve.
If somebody was to give you $1 million, Kris, and there's just a few questions. If somebody was to give you $1 million and say, Kris, invest this for me, what type of, would they see that a $340,000 return? Like, what would they see from that money and how long?
Yeah. So first of all, I do some diversification. I would probably allocate a third of that into single family. And then I'd probably put 20% of it into high asymmetric, high risk private equity plays. And I put the other 50% into buying businesses. So let's just say I bought 2 businesses that are each, producing me, $1 million a year. So I'm like, okay, so that's a great return on my money. I've got a third of it that's sitting in single family homes that over the next 20 years, that $300,000 is going to turn into 30, 40, $50 million. And then I did some private equity plays where it's like, 8 out of 10 of these are not going to be moonshots, but if 1 or 2 of them are, I'm going to 100x my money. And so now you have some money that's giving you real estate foundation. You have somebody that's giving you high upside, and then you have business that's providing you active cash.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Where can people reach you, Kris? If they want to come, they want to invest, they want to learn from you, where can they reach you? And of course, we're going to put a link in at the end that everybody can see on all of our platforms. But tell the audience where they can find you, Kris.
So I've got a lot of free resources, free books, even free tickets to some of my upcoming events that are made available on freewealthgift.com. So freewealthgift.com is where I'll get you a copy of my book for free, an event ticket, or even just a wealth plan. Like, get with my team and just figure out what a multimillionaire would do in your shoes. Other than that, you can find me on all social media. You just got to spell my name right. It's Kris, K-R-I-S, and it's Krohn, K-R-O-H-N. And I'm agnostic. You can find me on any platform.
That's absolutely amazing. Kris, is there anything for advice, any last minute advice that you would give to somebody that wants to start in real estate? Any directional advice on where to start and how to get to that point?
Yeah, you can read books or you can get a mentor. And my mentors made all the difference for me. Books were not enough to give me confidence. They were just enough to give me enough courage to be stupid. So I think books are great for knowledge, but when you're going to put it all out there, the biggest hack that I've learned, and not just in real estate, not just in business, not just in marriage, not just as health, is that when you rely on what you can only get what you've gotten. And if you don't like what you've gotten, then you need to find people that have done 10x or 100x more than you, because that's going to increase your brain power, access to knowledge, information. So get someone that will sit side by side and invest with you. Get with someone that can show you step by step how to do it. Because with them, you're always going to be better off than I am.
Awesome, Kris. Thank you very much. I know our audience absolutely loved having you here today, Kris.
Thank you.
Our guest chat blew up more than it ever has today. You are definitely a popular man, that's for sure. But Kris, thank you very much for joining us. Audience, thank you again. This is Stop Chasing and Start Listening.
Thanks for sticking it out with us to the end. As always, if you enjoy our show, please subscribe so you don't miss any of our episodes, guest appearances, or education in the world of investing. Till next time.